Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of FSi DFS Fantasy Baseball Picks. I'm your host, Mega Ruler 31. Sorry for the late video today. Funny story. I was recording it earlier on today, and during the middle of it, my computer froze up, was unresponsive, so I had to quit, restart, Windows update load, and everything. But the funny part is where it froze was where I was talking about how I loved this Philadelphia and Chicago White Sox game where the wind's blowing out 25 miles per hour, and I was 41 degrees, so maybe a chance of snow. But I thought it was a great hitting environment, even with the cold weather or the pitchers, and talking about the duality. And now it's canceled, so perfect. We'll have to go and talk about that. So we still do have a nice 8-game slate here. We actually have some decent pitchers back. And last I had like Cole yesterday and Alcantara, but like the couple of 3 slates before that were just like brutal with pitching. And we have Coors Field. We've got some nice hitting environments. So let's get into this breakdown. Lots of ways to go today. I think it's gonna be a high scoring night, which is exciting. And let's break down. So Philadelphia and the Chicago White Sox are postponed, so do not play players in there. Texas and the Royals. So I mean, this might move the slate back to 740, but we'll see what happens with that. Um, Texas, you have Jacob DeGrom and Jordan Lyles. DeGrom just faced the Royals, but I'm not really scared about that. I think that they're definitely DeGrom's probably the top pitcher on the slate here, and Jordan Lyles on the other side. I'm not very interested in Texas, even though they're missing a couple players are still pretty potent offensively. So Texas would be my second favorite GPP stack of the day, and Kansas City would only be a leverage stack against DeGrom, just in case, seeing him recently, they can get some hits off him is probably more of a YOLO thing for that. Arizona Diamondbacks and St. Louis Cardinals, 61 degrees, wind blowing out 12 miles per hour. Kelly and Flaherty, I don't mind Kelly here. The Cardinals get new bar back, and I think they're going to lose the other guy that was batting second there with a leg injury. O'Neill was rested yesterday. He should be back in the lineup. So we'll just have to see how the lineup rolls out. But it's probably going to be pretty right-handed heavy with only a couple lefties, maybe Gorman, Nootbaar, and Donovan. So I think Kelly is definitely a cheap option for you here potentially in GPP. And Flaherty, I'm not really interested in. He's just walking a lot of people, and this Arizona team is just so fast that they just run, run, run. So, if guys get on base, like singles become doubles, become triples, et cetera, et cetera. So, pitching wise, I'm Kelly and GPPs, Flaherty, no. Bat wise, St. Louis is probably my top GPP stack just because they're St. Louis and they can put up runs. They have 4.71 total. And then Arizona on the other side definitely makes some cheap fill-ins here. Blue Jays in Houston. I mean, it could be a playoff series preview here. Gossman and Javier, two decent pitchers. Gossman, I really like here. It's the most expensive guy on FanDuel and up there on DK also. And I think a lot of people shy away from him, but I think that definitely he's in play here. Houston's been striking out. They don't have Altuve. I'm still waiting for Brantley to get back in the lineup. So they're not as good as they're going to be. They have struggled against right-handed pitching. So I think definitely Gossman's in line for a decent night here. And Javier on their side, even in a bad matchup against the Toronto bats, he's been solid also. So I like both of the pitchers, not as much as DeGrom, but in the top end. I mean, I think a lot of people might try to get Gossman and DeGrom in the same lineup. There is enough value out there to do that, especially with like the pricing on Milwaukee and Arizona and really good matchups. So it is doable if you want to try to do that. Bat wise, I think both are just leverage stacks against some pitchers that are decent. We have Coors Field. We have Pittsburgh Pirates and Colorado Rockies. I know a lot of time we fade Coors Field the first time out. Pittsburgh doesn't have Cruz, but they still have some potent guys here. Hayes leading us, been decent. Bay has been leading us also, but he's down in the batting order potentially probably because they're facing a lefty here. Reynolds has been hitting well. Santana switch hitter. I mean, you've got some bats here in Pittsburgh, so I think coming out here might not be bad. In Colorado, again, they're still waiting for like Brandon Rogers. I don't think he's going to be back to like August with a shoulder when he gets there. And so, but like some of these younger guys are starting to round into to form also. Rich Hill is just, he's got no velocity whatsoever. I mean, he's just a veteran pitcher that it just reminds me of like when Bartolo Colon was pitching into his 40s with the Mets. Like in the right situation, he'd go out there and just sometimes not throwing as fast as a major league pitcher. It messes up the timing for a little bit, but eventually I think it catches up. So Rich Hill is definitely a no for me. Kyle Freeman has actually been really solid, even in cores to start the season. So I don't mind taking him in GPPs here. And I know I'll have a couple of shares of him against Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh, again, is not the greatest lineup. And again, sometimes it takes a while to adjust the course field. Hitting weather's decent. Wind's blowing out slightly 4 miles per hour. 68 degrees is decent hitting weather, but it's not like the wind's blowing out 10 miles per hour and it's 80 degrees there. So I think Freeland's in play. Rich Hill, no thank you. And I think Colorado's probably the top stack on the slate, and Pittsburgh right behind. Potentially also. And I think if you want to game stack it, it works out well position wise too. Brewers and Seattle Mariners, Corbin Burns and Chris Flexen. Burns has looked good for the season. I know Seattle has definitely had hit well, but they've had some easy matchups too, like playing the A's and some other teams that were not as good pitching. So I think that Corbin Burns is definitely a solid option here. Again, I like DeGrom and Gossman and Javier more, but I think if you want a contrarian, and 8.8's not a bad price for him here. It's a little bit more expensive on FanDuel. I think he's 10K, but in DK, he's could be a decent SP2 option if you can get up to him. Flexen, not a good pitcher, reverse splits guy. So love the righties here, Milwaukee, and they're not too expensive, especially on FanDuel. So Adames is probably the top play here, but Contreras, a catcher at 3.8 isn't bad. Anderson, I'd take. You can mix in also like Tellis and Yelich if you want to go full 5-man stack, but and Garrett Mitchell. But I really probably like to focus on the righties here for Milwaukee as cheaper fill-ins. Again, I know Adames isn't at 5.2, but Anderson and Contreras at 3.8, 3.5 aren't bad, and Bruce, who if he cracks the lineup up higher, even, and then just see who they roll out there. Seattle on the other side is just going to be a contrarian leverage stack. Braves and Padres, 56 degrees, so cooler in San Diego, wind blowing out 5 miles per hour, so no real bump there. Fried coming back from an injury against the Padre team that, I don't know, I think he's in play here, but it might be more of like the no interest. I don't think I have many shares of him at all, unless I build a lineup and just land on him, and like the guys around him are absolute trash. Weather's on the other side. It's just not a good pitcher. Doesn't go deep in the games. I think he's going to get in trouble with this Braves lineup. So I really think that the Braves can put up some decent runs here. San Diego, I think it's just a GPP team. Even if Fried struggles, they have such an amazing bullpen so far this year. So I think that they definitely, if you're playing a 20 max or 150 max, they're in play. But if you're playing like a smaller group, I wouldn't focus on it. I would focus more on the Braves bats in San Diego. Chicago Cubs and Oakland Athletics. Oakland has given up a lot of runs this year. Mueller has struggled. So, and Hayden Wisniewski here, I think is a solid option. Is probably my favorite SP2 at 6,300 if you're trying to get more expensive bats in your lineup here. So love the Cubs here, righties or lefties. Like they have like such a against the lefty Mueller here. Like you have Honer, like Swanson, Happ, Suzuki's back in the lineup. Start out cold, but I think he'll hit up eventually. Mancini, Wisdom, so many different options. Even like Nelson Velasquez, if he hits on the bottom, he's 2.3. Like he's only played in a couple games, but he's done quite well in those. So started off pretty hot. So if you're looking for a cheap punt in the outfield or do a wraparound stack, definitely in play. Keep that name in mind. Oakland on the other side, again, probably a cheap fill-ins here. Like Rooker's got some home runs, hit him against the Yankees, but you have like and it's righty there. Noda is going to be a decent hitter. So I think they're just cheap fill-ins here. I wouldn't really full stack them at all, but I think, he'll be playing a lot of Wisniewski at pitcher, so I probably won't have too much Oakland in my lineup. Mets and Dodgers, another probably good playoff series here. Peterson and May. Peterson just doesn't go deep in the games, doesn't really have like too much K upside. The wind's blowing out here 13 miles per hour. Again, that helps hitting, but still only 56 degrees, so I don't think that's a huge as much of 13 miles per hour in Coors, Wrigley, Fenway, places like that. Dustin May on the other side. The Mets just really don't strike out, and May doesn't go deep into games. They just kind of like bring him along slowly as a young pitcher, so not super interested in him either. Bat wise, I always play the Mets in a GPP. They've just been so hot recently. Nemo, Marte, Lindor, Alonso, just probably those four there. Usually don't mix in the fifth one. Beatty is actually at 2K at third base. He's one of their top prospects who gets called up again, so he'll probably see some ownership, just people speculating on him. So if you're playing a Met stack, then there's another one that you can throw in. It's like a little wraparound there for your fifth man. But again, I'd probably concentrate on just Nemo, Marte, Lindor, and Alonso. Dodgers on the other side of 4.67 total, which is decent against Peterson. So probably the righties, Freeman, lefty on lefty, I think, is still fine. JD Martinez, don't love him. I think he's a little bit like over the hill, on the decline of his career. Like he'll have a good game every so often, but I'm, not one that's going to play him every day and wait for it to happen. Muncy lefty is okay, but I prefer him against a righty. Thompson, I mean, there's Vargas. I think the bottom of this lineup might be better to do like a down and like a wraparound than like some of the lefties if you're paying up in the middle if you're playing the Dodgers. So that's all the games. So let's look at our builds for the day. So again, taking DeGrom here, SP2 probably Wisniewski, Freeland. If you can get up to Gausman or Burns, and that's great. Catcher, I'll probably take whoever Pittsburgh throws out there to complete the stack. Diaz, Colorado's fine too, but Cron, Castro, Hayes are my main ones there. Shortstop, if you want to take Tovar, or I might just punt and take like a cheap one off there. Bryant, Reynolds, and I'll leave the last outfield space open for you. There's lots and lots of options where you can go there. McCutcheon, he's 5K. He's really not been great. Connor Joe at 3.5 is not a bad one there. On the Pittsburgh side, for the Colorado side, Blackman, again, I kind of feel the same way of him as I feel JD Martinez. Daza is not bad towards the bottom line, especially if you're doing like a wrap-on thing like Daza, Tovar, and your shortstop, or Profile leading off too at outfield also. Can't forget about him. So that makes that work. FanDuel, it's pretty much the same thing. Pretty much the same guys from the core, although probably playing Profile at shortstop, which I love that you can do that on FanDuel because it opens up another outfield spot for you. And then for GPP, I'm taking Gausman again, probably playing down for Wisniewski, Freeland, Kelly, one of those cheap SP2s, and I'm stacking the Cubs and Milwaukee. Unfortunately, the hard decision here is going to be shortstop, Adames or Swanson. I'm leading Adames with against Flexen, but either one I think is good. So Contreras at catcher, and that's the Contreras from Milwaukee. Mancini, Honer, third base. I mean, you have a bunch of like Brian Anderson, I think can go there. Wisdom, and then Hap, and then again, I'll give you have so many outfield options if you want to go with like Yelich or Garrett Mitchell or like the Warmer at 2.1, like I said, from Milwaukee with the righty on Flex and righty, that works too. And then there's a ton of Cub options. Also, you have you can go Suzuki, you can play Mancini in outfield if you want to go another first baseman. Bellinger, lefty and lefty, and not super crazy about there. Actually, Velasquez for the Cubs was the guy that I was raving about. That's the really cheap one, not warmer for Milwaukee. And same thing on FanDuel. Javier, I think I was the pitcher in the range. I can't get up much higher, but again, maybe I will punt one of the if Velasquez there, maybe I can get up a little bit higher to another one. But Javier, I'm pretty happy with Contreras, Horner, Adames. Here you can play Swanson. Sorry, I have Adames in the wrong slot here. He should be down here in shortstop, not third base, but it's cool on FanDuel. You can play both shortstops in great position. Hap, and again, figure out what outfielders you want. So that's what I got for you today. Thanks for watching. Leave any comments in the chat below. Hit me up at Megru31 on Twitter if you have any other questions. Usually we haven't had to drop any notes recently, but if anything like changes weather-wise, pitcher gets scratched, things like that, check like half an hour before a lock, around 6:30. Sometimes McKinley and I will drop notes in the chat of the video just to update you on things that you need to know that have transpired through the course of the day. And if these videos help you, help us back by liking the video, subscribe to our channel, and share with your friends. Post the link out there so people can see what we're doing for free to try to help you out build better lineups in Major League Baseball. If you want more information on FSi DFS, it's all in the description there. And I appreciate you watching. Good luck in your contest. Nice little slate here. Hopefully these pitchers and stacks will come through for us and make us some money. So we'll see you next time.